Welcome back to another Dubfeat Variety Hour. This is going to be a Dubfeat Shorty. I'm going to try to do these more often because these are easier, shorter, and simple. You guys know the deal. It's Dubfeat, 2 features, talking about them, breaking them down. But before we get into that, I watched the movie Dune 2 yesterday with Lewis, and that movie's pretty fucking good. I won't go too much into detail about it because, like I said, this is a Dubfeat Shorty, and I got 2 movies to talk about within all of this. But I will say that Dune Part 2 was pretty impressive. I watched Dune Part 1 on HBO Max a few days ago, so it stayed fresh in my brain. And Part 2 was really fucking enjoyable. It picks up right where Part 1 leaves off, and they envelop the rest of the story and the rise of Paul Atreides, who, Timothée Chalamet is just kicking ass and taking names. Either way, I would say worth the time if you're into the fantasy notion of the style of the movie. If you like the director, I forget his name. Let me see if I could pull it up real quick. Denis Villeneuve. Wait, no, I'm saying that wrong. Denis Villeneuve.
I'm Denis Villeneuve.
He's a Canadian, Quebec Canadian. His movies are such classics as Prisoners, which is fucking phenomenal. He also did Blade Runner, the sequel, which was long and kind of boring, but it was visually stunning, so worth the time to watch. Definitely one of those directors to keep an eye on because Dune 1 and 2 were pretty fucking good. You can see all the influences of every fucking sci-fi movie from like 70s on, and heavily including Star Wars, adult cartoons like Rick and Morty and Futurama. But clearly Dune has had a heavy influence on Hollywood, on movies, on books, on things. You could see from The Matrix to Terminator to Game of Thrones. These are influences that have come from the original source material, Dune, which is a book. Either way, Dennis created 2 classics, made these really fucking good, totally worth watching. Highly recommended. Take the time to watch both. They're both a little long, but they don't feel long, or at least the second one doesn't feel as long. First one feels a little long, but it's all the, laying the seeds. The Batman Begins to the Dark Knight, essentially, as I can't stop putting it that way. But it's the best way to put it for me because that's how I see it. Everybody in it's great. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Dune for now. Moving on to the short. As many of you probably already know, I have the Criterion channel, which is the streamer that coincides with Criterion. They put a lot of great movies up in there. They curate a lot of great directors, depending on what they're doing. But anyways, they also do this thing at the end of the month where if a movie is leaving, they kind of put like a compilation to let you know what's going. And it's like your last chance to watch it before it leaves this thing. Obviously, it's not the only chance because sometimes they end up on Max or wherever else of the gazillion streamers and possibly online for free as a streamer. But, it still puts the urge of certain movies to be watched again or watched for the first time. One of those movies was The Panic in Needle Park. And I also saw that Requiem for a Dream was there, which I've seen before. It's a harrowing movie, but for whatever reason, I put it as background just to watch, which is probably not the best background movie, but still a fucking phenomenal movie. Unintentionally, I paired these 2 movies together, but the main reason I watched both of them is because the time frame to watch them was slowly shrinking because they were both leaving at the end of the month. So I kind of was like, oh, fuck, well, I've had The Panic at Needle Park on my list of movies to watch for forever because it's Al Pacino, and Requiem for a Dream, it's a classic, so of course I had to watch both. I watched Requiem for a Dream first, which I have seen, enjoyed it the first time. Requiem for a Dream is a classic. It's one of those movies where it's weirdly timeless because as you watch it, you're kind of like, wait a minute, this was made in 1999? And then it makes more sense because then you think of like Fight Club, which was also made around the same time, but there's such like staples of that era of like sort of the transition of like special effects were kind of in there, but also you were still dependent on practical for a lot of, majority of everything. But I feel like Requiem for a Dream is like a game changer in terms of just visually showing things and just the demonstration of a fucking awesome story by Darren Aronofsky. That movie is probably one of the most harrowing, depressing, depraving version of drug abuse and drug addiction, and it just leaves you like I watched it again thinking, oh wow, this is just so brilliantly done. I'm seeing all these different influences that I've seen in hundreds of movies that have come after it, but I forgot how stinging the end of the movie is because, spoilers here. If you haven't seen this movie by now, I'm sorry, but you should get on it. But I'm buying you guys time to skip forward at least a minute now. The way all the characters end up at the end of the movie, just to different versions of drug abuse, unintentional or otherwise, it's just so fucked. Jared Leto's character breaks your fucking heart. His girlfriend sort of just gets all fucked up and gets more addicted to the notion of just drug use so she becomes a shell of herself. Marlon Wayans ends up in prison, and he has to go through withdrawal as he's in prison, so it's this whole fucking mess. And then Jared Leto's mom, who's played by a great actress by the name of Ellen Burstyn, she fucking she probably comes out the worst because she was just trying to lose weight and she ends up on all these prescription pills as per recommended by her doctor. And at the end of the movie, she just looks just like, if not worse than Jennifer Connelly's character, who's Jared Leto's girlfriend in the movie. She ends up as a shell of a person after like electroshock therapy and all this other stuff when she ends up pretty much in a psych ward. I do recommend this movie. I probably wouldn't recommend it for a second viewing, or maybe for a second viewing for the sake of taking in the notions of all the film love from it. But it is such a hard movie to watch because it just leaves you in this it leaves you in the state of mind like watching Come and See. It's one of those, like, after you watch it's like, well, I guess I'm going to be depressed now. That's the plan, whether you like it or not. I would say any takeaways from the second viewing, like I said, I mean, I just remember it being so unique and well done, and it just seems like it's from a timeless period. It doesn't seem like it was made in the late 90s. It seems like it could have been made today, and it still has that like magnitude of awesomeness and creativity and respect of what you would expect in a film that's in the theater now. You get the notion of Darren Aronofsky's sort of stage style, which you see heavily prevalent in The Whale. But all in all, it's a great fucking movie, and I would probably give it 9 out of 10 toes. I think that's a fair rating. I don't think there's any problems with it, but I don't want to be a film snob and give it 10 out of 10. I just can't do it. Or I guess I am being a film snob by not giving it a 10 out of 10. But what I weirdly ended up doing as I watched that one, I ended up watching The Panic in Needle Park, which I didn't realize how similar the movies would be. This one's more of a, I was going to say romantic comedy. Not a romantic comedy, but it's still sort of a romantic movie. The two characters in it is Al Pacino and Kitty Wynn. Helen Reeves and Bobby, those are their names in the movie. Paul Sorvino, fun fact, just has the tiniest glimmer of a role in it, as well as Raul Julia. This is his first movie ever, and he just plays like a painter who smokes a little weed, and he's so fucking cool and charming in it, which sucks because we lost that great actor way too soon. The movie pretty much shows the classic drug era, and I say that loosely because we've had many drug eras within New York. I mean, I feel like we're kind of going through one right now, just if you see any of the trains and videos on Instagram, although it might just be a reflection of just the fact that people are able to film it. Maybe it's not as rampant as it seems. It definitely is not in a good place. But anyways, the movie takes place what I assume is the 70s. The book is it's based on a book, and the book takes place in the late 60s. However, if you have read or heard any stories of back in the day during the times of New York and the drug heroin boom, they literally nickname a park Needle Park, Sherman Square. And this is where essentially Bobby and Helen hit it off. That's Pacino and Kitty Wynn. And it's just, you see them as this like loving couple, and it starts out very wholesome and it's very beautiful, of course, until they both start using a lot of heroin, and then it leads to her pulling tricks in order for them to make money in order to get more drugs. And this is where I kind of found the similarities between both of the movies. Requiem for a Dream and Panic in Needle Park. They had this goal to make X amount of money in order to escape this horrible area and horrible situation. But of course, that doesn't happen because they get bogged down by the addiction, and that takes over. Similarly, like in Breaking Bad, of course, you're going to have me have a Breaking Bad reference because, that's how I roll. But it was the same deal with Jesse and Jane. She's all like, where can we go? Where should we go? What should we do? We should flush our drugs. We have all this money. And then, of course, she ends up ODing the same night when they're like, all right, one last time, one last drug use. It shows how harrowing and fucked up the drug abuse is and how it's hard to get out of it. The end of the movie is very profound and a lot better than... and not better in terms of critically better in terms of a better outcome, although it's kind of up in the air. But Al Pacino goes to jail. She's kind of semi-responsible for it, and she essentially waits for him outside of jail, and he's like, I don't want nothing to do with you, blah, 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 blah. But then they sort of like re-hit it off. They have this moment, and then it's like, all right, they end up walking together and holding each other, and it's like, love's prevails, I guess. I mean, that was kind of the theme at the end, which was good because, you don't really expect much of after all the betrayal between the two of them for there to even be room for something like that to occur. So the fact that they were still able to sort of muster up and be together still, that was something else. I think what makes this movie pretty good is it just seems pretty realistic. This same case has probably happened so many fucking times throughout the history of the drug pandemic, endemic heroin boom of the 70s and all the drug abuse and all that shit. I mean, this is a byproduct of that. And I'm pretty sure that this has happened pretty realistic many a time. Is there anything else to reference back to this movie? I mean, I would just say, they're both very good stories. Oh yeah, their rating I would say is probably around a 7 out of 10 feet. 7 out of 10 feet. It's just kind of long. It meanders at some points, and then it hits you with those harder points. I mean, obviously Pacino, he's like baby-faced in it. He's pretty young, but the acting's really good. It's just, I feel like it didn't have to be as long as it was because it just kind of keeps going. Like Requiem for a Dream is, it's not that it's long, it moves really fucking quick. It's a little bit shorter than it's like 8 minutes shorter than this movie, but at least every moment is a profounder expansion of the plot. This movie, it's like, all right, fuck, something bad happens. Oh, fuck, something bad happens. Okay, there's a little bit of luck. Oh, something bad happens. Oh, they're trying to figure this out. And then the movie ends with him in jail and her trying to still be with him. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed The Panic in Needle Park. It was just semi-twisted, but also wholesome of a love story at the same time. And like I was saying before, it all came from a place of truth, and that gives that reigns true between both of these movies, Requiem for a Dream and The Panic in Needle Park. There's a weird truth to it, even though there are movies and they're scripted and all that stuff, because they come from places of truth, and they come from how like drug abuse is fucking awful. It's also why both these movies kind of leave you sort of not necessarily scarred. I mean, maybe Requiem for a Dream leaves you scarred. The Panic in Needle Park just leaves you uneasy and kind of just like, well, drugs suck, I would say both movies are worth watching. You get notions of betrayal from both of them. There are many parallels between Jared Leto and Jennifer Connelly's characters to Al Pacino and Kitty Wynn's characters, so that's kind of unique. You get to see a babyface Raul Julia. You get to see Paul Sorvino for a brief moment in The Panic at Needle Park. Any overlapping other themes other than drug abuse between these new movies? Not per se. Both directors are worth checking out, though. The director of The Panic in Needle Park is Jerry Schatzberg, and the director of Requiem for a Dream is Darren Aronofsky. Both of these people are pretty profound. They left pretty good moments in the world of cinema with some growth and some change and some new ideas. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, and critiques or anti-critiques, drop it on the comments on the Instagram. And that's it for this shorty. I hope you enjoyed this quickie. More to come soon. More full-lengthers, more breakdowns. I still have to do About Schmidt and Limelight. That podcast should be dropping soon enough. Still have to watch them, given the circumstances of 2023 sucking a big old bag of dicks. That podcast did not come yet, and the homework in order to get it done has not occurred. So those are on my list. I still have a fuck ton of movies to watch as well. Still haven't watched Barbie. I tried to watch as many of the Oscar noms and wins as I could. I watched a lot. I still feel that Lily Gladstone might have been robbed a little bit. However, Emma Stone killed it in Poor Things. Didn't love Poor Things, but Poor Things was pretty freaking good. Let's be honest. It was a pretty solid movie from beginning, middle, and was last act okay. Final moments of the last act pretty fucking great. That is all. I will not rant to you guys anymore about movies because this was supposed to be a shorty. We'll pick up on some good stuff, some talk soon. Hope to hear from y'all soon. Peace.